Brakata Yahweh Yahweh Shai, Brakata Yahweh Yahweh Shai, Brakata Yahweh Yahweh Shai, Brakata Yahweh Yahweh Shai, Barak, Warapah, Wakazak, to the apostles, elders, and the brothers that are scattered abroad, greeting. And I wanted today to go into St. John chapter 7, verse 35. And I'm actually going to read it in the New International Version. A lot of times we tell you brothers to steer clear of these different versions of the Bible, and the reason being is because they take, the color scriptures and they just mangle them. I mean, they mangle them. They mangle Jeremiah 14:2. They mangle Revelation 1:13 down to 15. Um, Song of Solomon 1:5. Jeremiah 8:21. I mean, they just mangle them those scriptures. And the King James, is the closest in translation to the Hebrew. But then sometimes these other versions do come right and exact. So I'm gonna read uh, on certain scriptures. I'm gonna read St. John 7 and 35 here in the New International Version. It says, "The Jews said one to another, 'Where does this man intend to go, that we cannot find him?'" It's talking about Yahweh Shai. Matter of fact, I'll start up here at 28 and read down. St. John 7 and 28. "Then Yahweh Shai, still teaching in the temple courts, cried out, 'Yes, you know me, and you know where I am from. I am not here on my own authority, but he who sent me is true. You do not know him.'" He's telling them, "Look, I'm here on the authority of the Most High, and you don't know the Most High. But I know him because I am from him, and he sent me." At this they tried to seize him, but no one laid a hand on him, because his hour had not yet come. Still many in the crowd believed in him. They said, "When the Messiah comes, will he perform more signs than this man?" The Pharisees heard the crowd whispering such things about him. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees sent temple guards to arrest him. And Yahushua said, "I am with you for only a short time, and then I am going to the one who sent me. You will look for me, but you will not find me, and where I am, you cannot come." The Jews said one to another. Right, this is the point. The Jews said one to another, "Where does this man intend to go, that we cannot find him? Will he go where our people live, scattered among the Greeks, and teach the Greeks?" Now that's what it says in the New International Version. The Jews said one to another, "Where does this man intend to go, that we cannot find him? Will he go where our people live, which are what? Jews, scattered among the Greeks, and teach the Greeks?" Because they classified the Jews that live among the Greeks as Greeks. Now, there was a reason for that too, because this is what was going on back then. I'm gonna read some history out of a book called "The Greek Achievement" by Charles Freeman. Page, let me see. I get this page. Just bear with me one moment. I'm just looking for the page. Yeah, page 420. It says, "Judaism was, of course, an ancient religion well rooted in the Greek world. It had spread widely in the ongoing diaspora and adapted itself well to Greek culture. Jews may have made up as much as 8% of the empire's population. The Hebrew scriptures were available in Greek. Many Jews, in fact, had forgotten Hebrew entirely and abandoned their links to Jerusalem and the temple there. So that's why the Jews in Jerusalem called the ones that lived among the Greeks, they called them Greeks. They weren't speaking the Hebrew no more. They weren't wearing the garments. They weren't keeping the high holy days. They weren't circumcising themselves on the 8th day like they were supposed to in the law. So the Jews classified them Greeks. They called them Greeks. They said again, the Jews said one to another, "Where does this man intend to go, that we cannot find him? Will he go where our people live, scattered among the Greeks, and teach the Greeks? They called those Israelites that lived among the Greeks, Greeks. Now I'm going to read this same scripture in the King James version here in the blue letter, St. John 7 and 35. Then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go that we cannot find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? And this is where a lot of you get messed up. Excuse me. You get messed up because it says, will he go to the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Right? Who is the dispersed among the Gentiles? Israelites. Now let's prove that. Now let me just backtrack out of here a little bit, and let me see if I put it up in here. It should come up. Quick scripture, James the first chapter. Here we go. James, a servant of the Most High and of our Lord Yahushua, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. So the 12 tribes were what? Scattered abroad. They were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. I'm going to read it again. The dispersion, James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord Yahushua, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. Alright? So I'm going to go back. So now you understand what it means when it said the dispersed among the Gentiles. Okay. John 7. Okay, so we're back in John 7. Let me go back down to the verse. John 7 and 35. St. John 7 and 35. Then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? So let's see what words are there in the Greek for where it says Gentiles. And I'm going to look up where it says that will he go unto the dispersed. Who are the dispersed among the Gentiles? So now let's pull this up here in the Strongs. So now let me scroll down. The dispersed, right? So let me click on that.
Strong's G1290. Diaspora. Diaspora.
Right, diaspora. Let me click on here. G1290. Diaspora. A scattering, dispersion. The dispersed among the Gentiles. A scattering, dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. So the dispersed is Israel, James 1 and 1. James, a servant of the Most High and of our Lord Yahushua, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. A scattering, dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. Of the Christians scattered abroad among the Gentiles. Now let me go down here. Strong's definition. It says diaspora from G1289. Dispersion, i.e., specially a concretely, right? Stone cold hard fact. The converted Israelite resident in Gentile countries, which are scattered abroad. James, a servant of the Most High and of our Lord Yahushua, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. So there can be no question who the scattered abroad are. Let me read this again. Dispersion, i.e., specially and concretely, the converted Israelite resident in Gentile countries which are scattered abroad. So now I'm going to go back. So now here in St. John 7:35, then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? So the dispersed, which were what? Israelites who were dispersed. or scattered among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles. Okay, so they were the dispersed that was among the Gentiles. And they were called Gentiles or Greeks by the Jews because why? As I read in the history earlier, they basically were totally detached from the Hebrew, and they were detached from their mother tongue Hebrew, their customs, their entire way of life, because they were amalgamated into Greek custom. So now let me go down to we read who the dispersed are among the Gentiles. Now the word here is Helen,
Strong's G 1672. Helene. Helene.
right? So the term there is Helen. So now let's click on G 1672 and see what it says. Helen, a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies, right? So that's what it's saying a Helen is. Then it says, in a wider sense, and meaning in a broader sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. The primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship. Let me see here. Then it says a Hellen. Then it says in quotes Grecian or inhabitant of Hellas. By extension, a Greek-speaking person, especially a non-Jew Gentile Greek. Right. So notice they keep saying a non-Jew Gentile or Greek, which this is the bullshit that they put here. See the blue letter is beautiful, but then it goes off. Now that's the bullshit that they put in there, telling you that Helen is talking about a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek island or colonies. So that's where you guys out there that call yourselves Israelites, that's where you go. That's where you go ape shit when you go look into these scriptures, especially in the New Testament. Primarily in the New Testament, when you see the word Gentile there or Greek there, that's why you guys are all bugged out in your mind. But all you have to do is simply go back and do some more research. Now, if you go into the Zondervan, this is something that the whole Israelite community uses on the whole. The Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. You should use it sometimes. You niggas out there that call yourselves Israelites, you should use this Zondervan sometimes. Go and do some research. Now, when you go in here, I'm gonna show you that this is bullshit. What they said when they say, in a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. I'm gonna show you that that's the bullshit. This is why. Uh, Looking up the word Hellenist, right? Now here, the Zondervan, it says Hellenist. Jews who made Greek their tongue and with it often adopted Greek ideas and practices. Now that's what it says. A Hellenist here is here in the Bible dictionary. But here on the blue letter, when you look up the word Helen in St. John 7:35, we already seen that it said the people of the diaspora. Concretely, it said who are Israelites that were among foreign nations, right? So it said, whither will he go that we cannot go? Will he go to the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? The dispersed, we already broke that down, are Israelites among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles, because the dispersed that was among the Gentiles were called Gentiles by the Jews in Jerusalem. Why? Because they totally went away from the laws, statutes, and commandments. They weren't speaking the Hebrew no more, wearing the garments. They weren't keeping the high holy days. But now this is where Esau throws his bullshit in, right? So now I'm gonna read this again. Hellenist in Zondervan. It says Jews who made Greek their tongue and with it often adopted Greek ideas and practices. So now you got to look at this in a wider sense. If it's talking about an actual Greek by nationality, whether they're a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies, then it says in a wider sense The name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. That's the bullshit right there. Because looking at it in today's terms, uh, being here in America, we are what? Americanized, right? People at that time were what? Hellenized. So in this day and time, we're Americanized into the football game, the basketball game, uh, into watching boxing, into watching the baseball games and all that. People celebrate, and you got people out there celebrating Christmas, the 4th of July, and this and all this, these American bullshit holidays, right? Well, Israel was doing the same thing back there. They were speaking the Greek language. They were wearing the clothes of the Greeks, keeping the traditions and the customs of the Greeks, following their customs, celebrating their holidays, just like you doing right now here in America. And it's not only us, it's not only Israelites. You got East Indians that are Americanized. You got Portuguese that are Americanized. You got Italians that are Americanized. You got Polish that are Americanized. You got Russians that are Americanized. Okay, you got people from Spain that are Americanized. They speak the English language. They wear the clothes that are popular over here on this here in America, and they eat the foods that are here. They eat the standard American diet. They speak the language. They wear the clothes. They're into the football game, boxing, baseball, and all of that. So they're what? Americanized. And the same thing applied and went on back then and there. It was the same shit going on. So for them to put that up in here, this was put up in here to basically to throw you off. And a lot of you that call yourself Israelites, you foolishly, you'll look at this and see, it's talking about the other nation. It ain't talking about the Israelite. You're a bunch of dumbasses. Now I'm gonna go back into the Zondervan and I'm gonna go look up Greek, right? Because it said here, a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. And then it says, in a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own, right? Now, I already read Hellenists. I'm going to read it again in the Zondervan. Jews who made Greek their language and with it often adopted Greek ideas and practices. Now, let's look up the word Greek and see what it says here for Greek. And bear with me one moment. I'm almost there. Okay, Greek. Got it. It's right here. Page 207 in the Zondervan. Now it says Greece, Grecia, Grecians. Grecia is Greece, the home of the Hellenes. Greeks and Grecians, right? The home of the Hellenes, right? That's the word that we're reading here. Helen. Now it says here, Grecia is Greece, the home of the Hellenes. Greeks and Grecians, however, are to be distinguished, meaning there's a distinguish between a Greek and a Grecian. It says Greeks are generally those of Hellenic race, right? As we're reading here, a Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands and colonies, right? Right? Greeks are generally those of Hellenic race, right? So that's what it says here. And this is the word we're looking up, Helen, right? St. John 7 and 35. Then it goes on to say, but the word may also be used to indicate non-Jews, foreigners, and aliens, right? The term Greek or Hellen can be used to mention non-Jews, foreigners, or aliens. That means a Hamite can be Hellenized. An East Indian or Persian can be Hellenized. Okay, Japhite could be Hellenized, right? So on and so forth, right? So it says, but the word may be used to indicate non-Jews, foreigners, and aliens. Then it says, Grecians were Greek-speaking Jews, folk of the dispersion from areas predominantly Greek. Now, didn't we read about the dispersion and the diaspora that those were straight up Israelites. So it's telling you here in the Zondervan, Grecians were Greek speaking Jews, folk of the dispersion from areas predominantly Greek, which means that when it says here about the second definition of Hellenist, in a wider sense that the name embraces all nations not Jews that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own, the primary reference is to a difference in religion and worship. That this is bullshit that they put here, because it can refer to a Hamite, a East Indian, a Japhite, or Israelite as being what? A Hellenist or Hellenized, which means you took on the Greek language, the Greek customs, Greek culture, wearing the Greek clothing, and the Greek way of life. And you basically abandoned your mother tongue and form of worship from wherever you came from. You became Hellenized. Again, like I said, like we're Americanized here to this day. And it said here, and I'm read the Zondervan again. Grecians were Greek-speaking Jews, folk of the dispersion from areas predominantly Greek. Now I'm gonna go back into the word dispersion again, right? To show you the bullshit. Go back here, the disperse, right? Let me click on it. Strong's G1290. A scattering, dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations, of the Christians scattered abroad among the Gentiles. Diaspora, dispersion, especially and concretely the converted Israelite resident in Gentile countries which are scattered abroad. I'm going to read it again. Grecians were Greek speaking Jews, folk of the dispersion, and from areas predominantly Greek. Folk of the dispersion, Israelites, right? So you should have a clear cut understanding of what it says when it says St. John 7:35. Then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? To the dispersed Israelites among the Gentiles, or the Greeks, and teach the Gentiles, the Israelites that were scattered among the Gentiles. Because again, the Jews classified the Israelites among the Gentiles as Gentiles. So now I'm going to go back to the New International Version. St. John 7:35. The Jews said one to another, where does this man intend to go that we cannot find him? Will he go where our people live? Our people are who? The Jews. Scattered among the Greeks and teach the Greeks. Did we not just read that Grecians were Greek-speaking Jews, folk of the dispersion, from areas predominantly Greek? So it should be, you should clearly understand what that's talking about now. And now I'm gonna end it off, and I'm gonna read something from the history again, and then I'm gonna end it there to the next lesson. Okay. Just finding my place in here. Alright. Here we go. Going back and reading this passage from this book here called The Greek Achievement by Charles Freeman. It says, page 420. Judaism was, of course, an ancient religion well rooted in the Greek world. It had spread widely in the ongoing diaspora, so we know that the people of the diaspora are Israelites, and adapted itself well to Greek culture. Jews may have made up as much as 8% of the empire's population. It says the Hebrew scriptures were available in Greek. Many Jews, in fact, had forgotten Hebrew entirely and abandoned their links to Jerusalem and the temple there. And with that, I'm going to say shalom until the next lesson.